Hey, friends, welcome to another installment of Wellness Wednesdays. I am glad that you're here, and I'm looking forward to our conversation on tonight. As is our custom, as you're coming on in, please let me know what city and state you're listening from. And then also, want you to share this right now with your friends, your relatives, your acquaintances, anybody that you know. This is going to be a great conversation tonight as we talk about shame and self sabotage. If this is your first time listening, my name is James Perkins. I am a therapist, a coach, a consultant. I absolutely love helping people reach their maximum potential and doing that by helping them explore their story so that they can more powerfully step into it. And so I love my role as a counselor, as a therapist, as a coach, because I really get a chance to help people uncover some of those things that may be keeping them from making forward progress. So I'm glad that you're here with me tonight. Again, as you're coming on in, let me know where you're chiming in from, city and state, and then also share this. If you really care about the people that you are in relationship with, you'll want to share this tonight as we have this conversation. I'm going to share on my end so that I can let my network know and we will get started. Um, as you're coming on in again, let me know where you're chiming in from. We'd love to say hello to you. Perfect. Awesome. So tonight, I want to talk about something that um, I never get tired of talking about, for one, let's say that. And then two, I just think it's extremely important. It's one of the things that we often don't talk about when um, we talk as it relates to mental and emotional wellness and reaching our goals, but it's extremely important. And that is around this whole idea of shame and self sabotage. And so, again, one of the reasons, let me just start here, that I do Wellness Wednesdays is because it really helps us to expand our ability to understand how our thoughts and emotions impact the decisions that we make on a daily basis. And obviously, we know the decisions that we make on a daily basis inevitably lead us to a desired outcome if we're making the right decisions, or an undesirable outcome if we are not making the right decisions. And so I wanted to create a space where we get a chance to kind of explore, look beneath the hood to understand what are the driving forces, the driving motivations um, that help us move forward in progress towards more meaningful and quality relationships, but also what helps us to really step into our own unique stories and journeys more powerfully so that we can really have a significant impact for the people that we serve. And so this is why I do Wellness Wednesdays. So this episode of Wellness Wednesdays, again, I'm wanting to talk about shame and self-sabotage. Um, I don't see it talked about a lot, but I know it to be one of the primary reasons why we don't um, use our gifts and our talents. And so I just want to say that at the drop, that the primary reason that we don't use our gifts and talents is primarily because of shame. And for most of us, to be honest, we probably would not identify that as the force, as the thing, if you will, that keeps us from making forward progress, or the thing that keeps us from reaching our goals, or the thing that keeps us from um, accomplishing and maximizing our potential. And that's the way shame actually likes to keep it. He would rather, um, and I personify it as he, it can be a she, however you see it, um, likes to go unnamed in its operation beneath the surface of your life so that it can continue to operate without you noticing. And so before I go any further, I just want to drop that again, that the primary reason that we don't use our gifts and talents is because of shame. Now you may say, okay, what is shame? Can you help me kind of give me a definition for what that is. Shame is this feeling, this intense feeling that you are not enough, and or that you do not have what it takes, and because you are not enough, and that you don't have what it takes, you're not worthy of love, belonging, or connection. It's this feeling of being inextricably flawed, if you will. And so shame is that feeling that keeps us really from moving forward, specifically in progress of our goals. Now, I wanted to really talk about shame and self sabotage specifically for this season. And um, one of the things that I have been reading and just watching lately, really since this pandemic started, or to be honest, even really before this pandemic started, is um, this idea. First off, that I think this is one of the ways I think shame is using its force to sabotage us, is is the reality that we have to be doing something during this pandemic. Now I'm going to qualify that. Um, I don't want. I'm not saying that you should waste this time during the pandemic. That you shouldn't be doing anything. If you're sitting at home, if you have, blocks of time because of this pandemic, and you're not using those, um, to your best ability. But what I am saying is, I think shame is using its the way it does. It's slipping its way into your life, into your experience, by making you feel like you need to be doing something. You need to be doing something during this pandemic. And what I may want you to consider, or hopefully you will consider tonight, is that activity does not equal productivity. Is that activity does not equal productivity. So Shane would much rather for you to keep moving, keep doing things, but it doesn't want you to be present with yourself. Because if you were actually present during these moments of the pandemic, present with yourself, present with others, you may find that there are some things, there are some ways that you are thinking, there are some ways that you are interpreting your life experiences that are not helpful. But you won't know what those things are if you're constantly moving. And so, for a lot of us, myself included, um, this pandemic has been a gift, and that it's offered me moments and space of time, one, to be more present with myself, which gives me a chance to essentially let my life catch up with me, for me to have some really thoughtful reflection, and allow me to think to myself, man, is the way that I'm actually looking at this specific situation, is it helping me? Is it helping me to move forward and progress, or is it holding me still in the current state that I am? You don't get a chance to ask and answer these questions when you are always at a consistent pace, when you're always doing something. The reality is that we are human human beings, but we're not human doings. And sometimes we can spend so much time doing that we fail to be being. And I know it's not correct English, but that's what I want you to hear. That sometimes we can be so focused on doing that we fail to be being. I love one of my famous narratives in the Gospels is with Mary and Martha. And Jesus essentially, he comes over and to eat at Mary and Martha's house, and Mary is focused on getting everything um, situated, getting the meal ready, and everything. And Martha, she is focused on sitting at the feet of Jesus. And Mary gets upset because she's not helping out in the kitchen, proverbially, if you will. And Jesus, essentially rebukes her and says that what Martha is doing is what she should be doing. She is being present with me in this moment. And so, what I want to offer to you tonight, for those who are listening, even if you're listening by replay, is don't let shame get you in the mode of doing something in order for you to forget that you are a human being and that you need to be present with yourself. So shame will run this narrative that you need to be doing something that you're not doing enough because, again, shame, two of its primary tapes are that you are not enough and that you don't have what it takes. And so shame wants you to prove your significance by what you do. It wants you to attach your identity to your activity. Did you get that? That shame wants you to attach your identity to your activity. And yes, if you're a believer, I do believe faith without works is dead, but I don't believe we are justified solely by our acts, that we are, our whole sense of who we are is not made up by what we do each in and out every day. But shame will want to make you attach your sense of identity to your activity. And what's dangerous about that is when we place our sense of identity on the activity that we do every day or the things that we do every day, we really put ourselves in a position to fail because one, uh, we're never going to get everything right, and so there are going to always be moments of failure, and so shame would rather put you on that spinning wheel where you are focused on activity, you're focused on doing things, and you have failures, and so you keep, having to prove yourself by doing more stuff, by accomplishing more, and it never seems to be enough because, again, shame, its foundation lies in attempting to make you feel like you are not enough. And so, shame in this season, I think it's or say this clearly, shame is trying to make you self sabotage by making you think that you have to be doing something specific in this season. I am I am not advocating for being lazy. I don't believe we get anywhere by being lazy. But what I am saying is we need to be focused on being present with ourselves before we take specific actions towards our goals. Because if not, if we don't know what our target is, we can't aim appropriately. And for some of us in this season, if we're so focused on doing and not being, again, we don't get a chance to be present with ourselves so that we can really do some introspection and reflection to determine, do we have the right mindset of where we're at? Do we have what we need to move forward? Where is it that I'm out of alignment in my life? Where is it that I need to invest more resources? Where in my life am I putting energy and resources in, but I'm not getting a return on my investment? You don't get a chance to actually thoughtfully answer these questions if you don't have time to do them, if you're always focused on moving and not doing. The second way I believe self sabotage shame is causing people to self sabotage, specifically in this season, is making you think that your voice is like everybody else's, that your voice is not unique. You see, everybody right now during this pandemic, everybody is streaming. I mean, there's not um, an hour that doesn't go by where we don't see somebody streaming a conversation, streaming a service, streaming a dialogue, streaming a forum. Um, and that can make you think that, man, what is there to add to this conversation? What is there to stream about? What is there to share my opinion about? And so you don't share. And so shame causes you to self-sabotage because it keeps you from sharing your unique voice and your unique message. And what I mean by that is that there are a whole bunch of people on the face of the earth, obviously 6.8 billion people, I believe. And yes, I'll give you this. There are people who may be saying and sharing information, knowledge, content on the web through streaming, whatever platform, and they may be saying something similar to what you're saying, but it's not coming from your voice. There are people who are really who are literally waiting on you to use your voice because they are they are your tribe, if you will. These are the people that resonate with your message. They resonate with your story. They resonate with your experience. And so, yes, they may hear something similar from somebody else, but when they hear your voice, they decide to respond. They decide to take action. But if you're looking around and have made up the conclusion in your mind that, man, I'm not going to step out because everybody else is saying the same thing, I don't need to say anything, you're cutting yourself short. So that's the second way. The first way, again, is shame wants to keep us in the season from by using self-sabotaging this season by being so focused on doing that we're not being, and focusing on being active without being productive, because activity, again, does not equal productivity. So, and the second way is it wants to make you feel like that your voice isn't unique. The third way I think that is really that shame is causing us to self-sabotage is to keep us from restarting something that we started and failed at before. Man, I'm all too acquainted with this. Personally speaking, I have had failures. Ramel, good to see you, brother. Glad you're on with me, man. I have had failures, significant failures from my perspective, that in some ways have stung, and in some instances and seasons, to be honest, because we all got them, have kept me from trying again. Is anybody gonna be honest with me? Is there a time where you have had a failure and you're like, man, it just hurts so deep, I'm not gonna try again? It's just like you want to try again, but you don't have the emotional energy to try again. Did you guys feel me on tonight? Don't leave me out here by myself. And so, and that's the way shame works. It wants to help. It wants to self-sabotage, or have you self-sabotage by not starting something that you started before that you failed at. Because the way it works is a simple thought that it plants in your mind is, if it failed back then it'll fail right now. If it failed back then, it'll fail right now. And this can be dangerous because sometimes we don't oftentimes think that we fail to remember that sometimes we can be doing the right thing in the wrong season of our life. We can be doing the right thing in the wrong moment. Sometimes we can be doing the wrong thing with the right thing with the wrong people, and it doesn't turn out. And then sometimes we're doing the right thing, but we actually don't. The failure is actually preparing us and expanding our level of competence and knowledge because we don't have everything that we need in that moment. We may not realize that to actually succeed. And so the failure is actually a gift because it causes us, hopefully, to assess ourselves and ask ourselves the question, okay, what can I do differently? What did I miss? But shame wants to keep a hold on you by helping you or by causing you not to try something that you have, that you started in the past. I think one of the privileges, again, the gifts that this pandemic has offered is this ability to try again, to restart, to reset, and do something that we may have done before, but now we really have the time and the emotional space to do it again. So the third way shame um, causes us to self-sabotage is by not starting something that we started before. And then the last way I believe that shame keeps us from moving forward and by causing us to self-sabotage is by playing this tape that you don't have what it takes, that you are a fraud. Yeah, that's a big word, right? That's a big word, right? Shame wants to make you think that you're a fraud. Yeah, if you listen to this, I want you to put that down. Shame wants to make you think that you are a fraud. And so because he plays that tape that you don't have it all together, you don't have a degree in this, you don't know what you're doing, you don't have the right connections, you don't have the right resources, you're not connected with these people. Um, and because you don't have those things, he'll make you think that you're a fraud, that you are a imposter. This is thing that we call imposter syndrome in our field. So why maybe a common term for some people, but imposter syndrome. This is where we get into um, we get we get in our own way. We get in our own way. Shame wants to make us get in our own way by making us think that we are fraud. That's right, Janice. Shame wants to make you think that you're a fraud. This imposter syndrome keeps us from adequately moving forward. One of the unique experiences that I've had with imposter syndrome may have been, I think, about a year and a half ago. I have a master's degree in counseling. I've counseled lots of people. I have coached some people. And one of the things that the way the imposter syndrome works is that it makes you forget about all the evidence that supports that what you're going after you already have been doing. Get that? Yeah. This is how sinister shame tries to use self-sabotage to keep us from moving forward, is that it'll make you think you're a fraud, but actually, if you think about your experiences and the uh, your life, if you will, for a season and period of time that you're thinking about doing something specifically, it'll make you think that you don't have that experience. But if you actually look deeper, if you're processing, you'll see that you are already doing what you're probably planning on doing, just in a different form. Or you may have been doing the exact same thing, but shame wants to make you think that you're an imposter, that you're going to be found out. You're going to be found out. So it keeps you from trying. Now, the way that shame will, if you will, tightens the noose is that shame needs three things to survive. So I'm going to share these three things, and then I'm going to give you two key ways that you can move forward and not allow shame to self-sabotage you. But before I share with you that, I want to share with you the way it really tightens the noose on all of us is by three things. Shame needs three things to survive. It needs isolation, secrecy, and fear of judgment. Shame needs three things to survive: isolation, secrecy, and fear of judgment. If those three elements are in play, shame is going to have a field day, because what it wants to do is to isolate you. It doesn't want you to open up. It doesn't want you to share. It doesn't want you to be vulnerable. It doesn't want you to expose yourself to risk. It doesn't want you to do that, because remember, the primary reason shame exists is to keep us from using our gifts, our talents, and our abilities. The primary reason shame exists is to keep us from using our gifts, talents, and our abilities. So, what do we do from here? James, you share with us four ways that shame can use self-sabotage as its mechanism to keep us from moving forward in this specific season of our life during this pandemic. Um, how can we kind of come out of that? Well, one of the specific ways we can do that is um, is by sharing, is by exposing ourselves to another person, another safe person that we consider safe, and exposing um, our vulnerability to them. One of the ways that shame works is it wants to keep you, it wants to have you essentially turn away and hide. That's his thing. It wants to make you turn away and hide. But what you don't realize is that when shame causes you to turn away and hide, shame actually increases because it reinforces this idea when you turn away and hide and you don't want to show up. It reinforces the idea that I'm feeling shame. Or let me say this a more specific way, that we feel shame for feeling shame. Get that? Did you guys get that? Isn't that interesting that shame wants us to feel ashamed for feeling shame because that's the way it tries to get us. When we don't show up, when we hide beneath um, our fears and experiences, and we don't come out and expose ourselves, when we don't do that, shame gets gets us. But the way that we can come from out of that is by finding a safe place to share with people that we trust about our failures, about our experiences, to share those things that we feel right in that specific moment that may be keeping us from moving forward. And to share that in a safe space, because what shame cannot survive is empathy. Shame cannot survive us showing up and sharing our truth and being vulnerable. Because when empathy is present, shame dissipates. When empathy is present, shame dissipates. When empathy is present, shame dissipates because we know what it's like to show up, be vulnerable. And when we expose ourselves, and when somebody says, man, me too, or I know how that feels, shame dissolves. So we need a safe place to be able to share and open up about our failures, about our experiences, about the things that we're afraid to do, and to share that in a safe space. I know that's good. That's good to me, and I'm the one sharing it. The second way that we can move forward and not allowing shame to use self sabotage against us is by reframing the narrative. Reframing the narrative. So, what I mean by that, let me say this, that we, out of all the human creation, human beings are the only um, part of the creation that have the capacity for storytelling. I want you to think about that for a moment. Out of all the creation that God created, human beings are the only ones with the capacity for storytelling. So, what does that mean? We are the only ones who have the capacity to change our story at any given moment. Every other mammal, every other part of the creation acts on instinct. How they're designed is what they do. But we as humans, we have the capacity to change our story. And whether you know it or not, our brains and our minds are always making meaning of our experiences. Even if we have not intentionally decided to take away a specific meaning about an experience that we've had, our minds are always making meaning of our experiences. And it's making meaning of our experiences from our data, from previously held data about things that we've said to ourselves in words, pictures, and images. So, whatever we have said to ourselves in words, pictures, and images, whatever we've internalized from what people have said to us, whatever we've internalized from that, our brain uses those thoughts, those images, those experiences to determine what meaning that we're going to give an experience by default. So if we don't make a decision, if we don't determine what meaning we're going to give to an experience that we have had, then we're not going to be able to unlock or to cripple shame's effort. We need to realize that we have the ability to change our story, therefore changing our meaning, therefore changing our narrative, therefore changing the decisions that we make. So when we, one, have the capacity to open up and share and expose ourselves to another being, shame dissipates because, again, shame can't survive in empathy. And then, secondly, how we get out of it is reframing our narrative, reframing our story. So if you're listening to me live or by replay and you're like, man, I have some work to do, uh, you may want to, after this is over, go back, listen maybe one or two times. And I want you to think about what is it that is holding you back in this season of life from moving forward. And I want you to ask yourself, why am I being held back in this specific area? Why am I being held back in this specific area? And to be honest with yourself and to ask yourself, what is the story that I'm telling myself that may be holding me back from moving forward? That's a big question. I'm going to say it again. What is it that I'm telling myself? What is it that I'm telling myself that may be keeping me from moving forward and making progress in this specific goal? What is it that I'm telling myself that may be keeping me from moving forward towards a specific goal? That's all I got for you. So what I want to invite you to do as a specific course of action today from our broadcast is, if you are thinking about processing these two questions and you need help with processing them, I want you to reach out to me, jamesperkins.help. Hit the Talk with James button and schedule a time to talk with me, because I want to help you unearth what are those narratives, what are those stories that you're telling yourself that may be keeping you from moving forward and making progress in this season. Yep, this is what I'm here for. I'm here to help you reach your maximum potential. But the way I do that is by helping you unwind those stories that you're telling yourself that are holding you hostage, that you may not be realizing that are holding you hostage. So jamesperkins.help. I want you to click Talk with James. And then also, as a free gift for me tonight, if you want to visit jamesperkins.help, click Wellness Wednesday. We have a special gift for you there. Sign up, you'll get access to our free course, 5 days to your best you. And I'm sure that's going to be a benefit alone. But more specifically, I want you to reach out to me so we can have a conversation to determine how we can help you move forward in this next season of your life by helping you prepare to make your next bold move. All right, friends, until next week, peace. Love you. Have a great evening.